There was a time when gold sat untouched in vaults and temples, admired, hoarded, and worshipped, while something far less glamorous decided who lived, who ate, and who ruled. Gold was beautiful. Gold was symbolic. But salt was survival. Empires didn't rise because they owned more gold than their rivals. They rose because they could feed armies, preserve food, and keep populations alive through winter, war, and famine. And for most of human history, nothing did that job better than salt. Armies marched for it. States monopolized it. Revolutions ignited because of it. All over a white mineral we now scatter on tables, without a second thought. If that sounds absurd, it's only because modern abundance has erased how fragile survival once was. Welcome to the financial timeline, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. To understand why salt was once more valuable than gold, you have to step into a world without refrigerators. No global supply chains, no preservatives, no margin for waste. In the ancient and medieval world, food was ante a convenience. It was a constant problem. Meat spoiled in days, harvests were seasonal. One bad year could mean starvation. One disrupted supply route could mean collapse. Cities weren't stable systems. They were fragile organisms, always one winter away from disaster. Salt solved that problem. Not because it tasted good, but because it preserved life. Salt pulled moisture out of food, stopping bacteria from spreading. It turned days into months, spoilage into storage. It made it possible to feed armies far from home, stockpile food for winter and war, support cities that didn't grow their own food, in other words. Salt wasn't seasoning. Salt was infrastructure. Gold could store wealth. Salt created it. That distinction matters more than it sounds. Gold is valuable because people agree it is. Salt was valuable because biology demanded it. Human bodies need sodium to survive. Livestock need it. Food systems collapse without it. That made salt non-optional. And once something becomes non-optional, it becomes power. Where salt flowed, civilization followed. Where it stopped, cities weakened. Value wasn't psychological, it was physiological. Salt had one feature states loved. It was geographically constrained. Not every region could produce it. Routes were predictable. Production sites were limited. Control became possible. And once control is possible, taxation isn't far behind. States discovered something dangerous. You don't need to tax wealth if you can tax survival. People evade income taxes. They cannot evade eating. Salt was consumed by everyone, every day, in predictable quantities. It was the perfect taxable commodity. Nowhere was this clearer than in pre-revolutionary France. The salt tax, the gabelet, wasn't applied equally. Some regions paid more. Some were forced to buy minimum amounts. Punishments for evasion were brutal. Salt wasn't just expensive. It was humiliating. People didn't revolt overnight. They smuggled, they cheated. And slowly, resentment hardened into something far more dangerous. Salt didn't cause the revolution by itself, but it taught people a powerful lesson. When the state monetizes survival unfairly, loyalty evaporates. Across Africa, salt crossed the Sahara in massive caravans. In some regions, salt was traded directly for gold, sometimes at equal value. To modernize, that feels backwards. Two people living without preservation. It made perfect sense. Gold doesn't keep you alive. Salt does. Control logistics, and you control power. Salt didn't glitter. It decided outcomes quietly. Salt's power depended on limits. Geography, technology, scarcity. And then those limits vanished. Refrigeration, canning, industrial food processing, modern logistics. Salt didn't collapse in crisis. It didn't crash like a bubble. It simply stopped being a bottleneck. Quietly, permanently. When salt became cheap, no one protested because cheap salt meant full stomachs. Salt wasn't unique. It was just the first essential we learned how to control. Today, power hides in energy, water, data, shipping routes, semiconductors, payment systems. No one celebrates electricity when it works. They panic when it doesn't. No one notices logistics when shelves are full. They revolt when they aren't. The most powerful systems are invisible until they fail. Inflation hurts most when essentials rise. Not luxury goods, not investments. Survival. When survival becomes expensive, politics destabilize fast. This isn't ideology. It's biology. Systems that monetize survival too aggressively don't just extract revenue, they extract legitimacy. Salt taught humanity this lesson early. Gold dazzles, stocks excite, speculation entertains, but real power hides in boring infrastructure that works quietly. Salt worked because it was boring. It promised continuity, not wealth. Value isn't fixed. It's contextual. Empires didn't rise because they had more gold. They rose because they understood what people couldn't alive without and built power around it. Salt decided who ate, who marched, who endured. And while we no longer traded for gold, the logic it revealed still governs the financial system we live inside today. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe to Financial Timeline. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.